There's a reason your soul craves silence while the world demands noise. A reason you feel drained after small talk, anxious in crowds, unsettled by surface-level connections. You were never built to be surrounded by many. You were designed to move with depth, not with numbers. And while that might have made you feel isolated in the past, it's time you understand the truth. This solitude is sacred. It's part of your assignment. You are the chosen one, and chosen ones are not called to everyone. Before we go any further, stay with this message and watch until the end. Because this isn't just a video, it's a frequency, a confirmation, a mirror to what you've always felt, but maybe couldn't explain. And you, chosen one, write your warmest wishes in the comments and type 144 to energize your path and light the way for others. Wishes are real, and your words carry power. Align with them, speak them, release them into the universe. The right moment is now. Now, chosen one, show your light by liking this video and subscribe to the channel. And let's step into this together. From a young age, you likely felt it. The discomfort in crowded rooms, the unease around people whose energy didn't sit right, the exhaustion after trying to belong in spaces that felt off. While others seemed to thrive in large groups or constant company, you always needed time alone to breathe again. That wasn't shyness. That wasn't insecurity. That was your spirit telling you, not everyone can sit with this kind of light. Chosen ones carry something rare, a high sensitive frequency that either awakens or agitates the people around them. Your presence is a mirror. To those who are aligned, it reflects truth, healing, inspiration. But to those out of alignment, it brings discomfort, resistance, even hostility. And that's why being around a lot of people isn't just tiring for you. It's dangerous for your energy. You've probably noticed how people gravitate toward you, want your insight, your peace, your presence, but don't know how to hold it. They take without giving. They expect without honoring. And you end up feeling drained, misunderstood, or misused. That cycle isn't random. It's spiritual. You're not meant to be easily accessed because what you carry isn't common. The solitude you often find yourself in isn't punishment, it's preservation. The divine isolates you not to hurt you, but to protect what's being built in you. Growth happens in silence. Clarity comes in stillness. And your most powerful revelations rarely come when you're surrounded by many. They come when it's just you, your soul, and the source. You were chosen to see deeper, to feel more, to walk paths others are too distracted to notice. That level of depth requires discernment. And that discernment isn't just about who you let in, it's about recognizing the weight of your own energy. You don't belong in every room. Your presence doesn't fit every space. And your peace is too sacred to be exchanged for temporary belonging. This is why your spirit starts to shut down when you're around too many voices, too many projections, too much noise. Your soul craves alignment, not attention. Depth, not drama. Truth, not trends. You're not antisocial, you're spiritually filtered. Not everyone can meet you at the level you now live at. And that's not a judgment. It's a boundary, a spiritual one. Because when your energy is open, you absorb more than just words. You feel everything. The unspoken pain, the silent envy, the chaotic thoughts. And if you're not intentional, you carry what was never yours to hold. That's why time alone is not optional for you. It's necessary. It's how you return to yourself. You've been called to walk ahead, not alongside the crowd. And while that path is narrower, quieter, and often lonely, it's also more true. You don't need a circle of people who tolerate you. You need alignment with those who see you, who honor your frequency, who respect your silence as much as your speech. Being chosen means understanding that solitude doesn't weaken you, it refines you. It strips away distractions, dissolves illusions, and brings your inner world into sharper focus. In solitude, your gifts activate. Your vision sharpens. Your soul recalibrates. It's where divine downloads come through, where healing happens, where your spirit rises to its full expression. But here's the challenge. Your human side craves connection. The part of you that's lived through rejection, abandonment, misunderstanding, it wants to be seen, loved, included. That's natural. That's valid. But chosen ones must learn to soothe those parts without sacrificing alignment. You must learn to give yourself the love you once begged for, because not everyone is qualified to pour into a vessel as sacred as yours. You're not here to be popular. You're here to be pure. Not pure in perfection, but in energy, in intention, in truth. That's why the more you grow, the smaller your circle becomes. That's why conversations that once thrilled you now bore you. That's why gossip feels like poison. That's why surface-level relationships feel like sandpaper on your soul. You don't want followers. You want frequency matches. People who don't drain you. People who don't perform. People who don't get threatened by your light. And until they come, you're okay in solitude, because being alone in truth is always better than being surrounded in illusion. You've reached a point in your journey where peace is the priority, where silence speaks louder than opinions, where being alone doesn't feel empty, it feels full, full of presence, full of awareness, full of you. And that version of you, that's the one the world wasn't ready for, but the one it needs. You were chosen because you don't follow the crowd, you follow the call. And that call has been leading you deeper, away from the noise, away from the masses, into yourself, into stillness, into the divine. And every time you honor that call, every time you choose solitude over chaos, you step closer to your purpose. So the next time you feel like isolating, don't guilt yourself. Bless that instinct. Trust it. It's not withdrawal, it's alignment. It's your higher self pulling you inward, recharging, renewing, preparing. You were never meant to be one of the many. You were chosen to be among the few. You weren't separated from people. You were separated for purpose. That distance you feel from the crowd, from your past, even from former friends, that's not rejection. That's redirection. Not everyone can walk with you, not because they're bad, but because your path is precise, sacred, measured. It requires a level of self-awareness and spiritual cleanliness most aren't willing to maintain. You don't just protect your peace, you curate it. You choose who enters your atmosphere with intention. Because now you know, not everyone comes with light. Some come with noise, with hidden envy, with confusion disguised as care. And the cost of keeping them close is too high. You've learned that the hard way. You've felt what it's like to lose yourself trying to carry others. But now, you carry clarity. People often misread your quietness. They think you're distant, arrogant, too serious. But they don't know the weight you've carried, the visions you've protected, the frequency you're trying to sustain. When you're called to operate at higher spiritual altitudes, you can't breathe in polluted energy. And a lot of social environments are just that, polluted, filled with projection, masks, and emotional debris that clings to your field without permission. You walk away not because you're better, but because you've outgrown what's shallow. You've outgrown gossip, small talk, energetic vampires, codependent ties. You've evolved past the need to be liked by everyone. You now seek something higher, alignment. And that alignment can't be found in crowds. It's found in sacred stillness, in soul-deep truth, in the quiet glow of your own energy. And that's exactly why the divine has kept you in spaces of solitude. Because when you're too accessible, your energy gets diluted. You lose your voice in other people's noise. You begin to mirror people instead of embodying your own truth. That's not what you're here for. You were never designed to blend. You're here to shift. And that kind of mission requires focus. You've probably noticed, when you isolate, you recharge. Your vision returns. Your intuition gets louder. Your peace becomes potent. Why? Because when you're alone, the only energy you're processing is your own. And that space? That's where creation happens. That's where you start remembering who you are underneath all the roles, labels, and expectations. That's where your true power lives. You're not antisocial, you're energy intentional. You see, the world teaches quantity, more friends, more likes, more noise. But your soul teaches quality. A few aligned souls are worth more than 100 bodies in the room. You'd rather sit in silence with someone real than laugh in noise with someone fake. And that's the kind of wisdom you only gain by walking alone. Aloneness isn't loneliness. You've learned to enjoy your own company. You know how to take yourself deep. You don't need people to fill a void. You fill it with presence, with purpose, with divine connection. And that's what makes you powerful. Your ability to stand alone without collapsing. Most people stay in crowds because they're afraid of hearing their own thoughts. But you go quiet because you know what's in that silence. You've found God in it. You've found your gifts in it. You've met your own soul in it. And what you found there? Priceless, unshakable, eternal. That's why you don't return to old friendships just because of history. You don't reconnect with old environments just because you're bored. You don't water dead things hoping they'll bloom again. You know now, if it costs your peace, it's too expensive. If it drains your spirit, it's not your assignment. If it clouds your clarity, it's not worth the noise. You've become selective not from ego, but from elevation. And those who misunderstand that are not meant to come with you. That's okay, because you didn't come here to drag people to their truth. You came to embody yours. And by doing that, you give others permission to rise or walk away. And the higher you go, the quieter it gets. That's not emptiness. That's refinement. You're not losing. You're reshedding. Layers, attachments, distractions. So you can hear yourself more clearly. So you can move with spiritual accuracy. So you can respond to divine timing without interference. You've been chosen to live at a frequency that disrupts illusions. That means you won't fit in spaces built on lies. You won't last in rooms where authenticity isn't welcome. Your spirit will reject what your ego might once have craved: attention, approval, applause, because now you recognize the cost. And while others may fear solitude, you walk into it like sanctuary. You've come to see your time alone as divine strategy, as restoration, as training, because the mission you're being prepared for It's bigger than you. And the fewer distractions you have, the clearer the call becomes. You were called out of the crowd not to isolate, but to elevate, to expand, to prepare. And now, every boundary you set, every room you avoid, every no you say to energy that doesn't align, it's not rejection, it's activation. It's you honoring the vibration that called you higher. Because at this point, you know, proximity is not connection. And being around a lot of people is not the same as being in alignment with the right ones. You weren't built for noise. You were built for impact. You carry something sacred. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you've become. You've walked through the dark and didn't lose your light. You've sat in silence and came out with sound wisdom. You've been overlooked, misunderstood, even judged for your stillness. And yet, that stillness became your superpower. You were never meant to move like the masses. Your journey was always going to be different. Because what you carry, it's not just light, it's truth. And truth is disruptive. Truth disturbs illusions. Truth exposes falsehoods. That's why so many people can't handle your presence. You don't even have to say much. You just being in the room shifts the energy. You make people confront parts of themselves they've avoided. And when they can't handle that mirror, they blame you. But you don't take it personally anymore. You've come to understand that not everyone is supposed to walk with you. And that's not a loss. That's alignment. You stopped watering relationships that required your silence. You stopped showing up in rooms that felt heavy the moment you walked in. Why? Because you now understand that your peace is sacred ground. You no longer negotiate it. There's a spiritual weight to what you carry, a vibration that's been refined in fire. You didn't get this clarity by reading books or listening to others. You earned it through solitude, through the pain of walking alone, through the quiet unraveling of everything you thought you were. You've been rebuilt from the inside out. And now that you're whole, you're unshakable. But here's the truth most won't admit. Chosen ones are rarely celebrated in their own time. You will be too quiet for some, too deep for others, too real for many. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've distanced yourself. But what they won't say is that they're no longer able to access the version of you they once controlled. That's why they're uncomfortable. That's why they fall away. The more aligned you become, the more exposed others feel around you. And instead of doing the inner work, they project. They call you cold, arrogant, too spiritual. But the truth is, you just stopped performing. You stopped explaining. You stopped making yourself smaller for the comfort of people who never saw you in the first place. You've learned the art of silence, not just verbally, but energetically. You don't give access where energy isn't honored. You don't invest where spirit isn't aligned. That discernment didn't come easy. It came after years of betraying your intuition for connection. After years of sensing the red flags, but staying anyway. You had to lose yourself to realize that not everyone deserves you. And now, you don't go where you're merely tolerated. You only go where you're respected. Where your silence is not awkward. Where your presence is not misunderstood. Where your energy is recognized, not drained. This is the standard now, not out of pride, but out of clarity. Because here's the real secret. When you're chosen, your presence is assignment-based. You're not called to be everywhere. You're called to be effective where it matters. One conversation with the right person can shift generations. One moment in the right space can change the course of your purpose. That's why you can't be everywhere. That's why your energy must be protected. It's not ego, it's strategy. You've become so in tune with your spirit that you can feel misalignment in a matter of seconds. You don't need proof. You don't wait for disrespect to be spoken. You feel it. And that feeling? That's not paranoia. That's protection. That's your gift sharpening. That's your spiritual radar evolving. And now you listen to it without second-guessing. You no longer confuse attention with connection. You don't chase validation. You've stopped showing up to prove anything. You know who you are. You know what you carry. And you know what it took to become this version of yourself. That confidence? It's quiet. It's clean. It's complete. And it naturally repels anything rooted in chaos. This is why you're called into silence so often. It's not because you're broken. It's because you're being refined. God doesn't place precious things in crowded places. He hides them, protects them, shapes them, until they're ready. And chosen ones, they spend more time in hidden seasons than in highlight reels. But here's the beauty. When you finally emerge, you don't come out the same. You come out glowing, rooted, whole, and most importantly, untouchable. Because you've been through the stripping. You've endured the pruning. You've embraced the isolation. And through it all, you became sovereign. You no longer need the room to agree with you. You no longer need people to get you. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be aligned. And that alignment, it will cost you company, but it will bring you clarity. And chosen ones trade crowds for clarity every time. So now, you move differently. You speak when it's time. You observe more than you explain. You love without attachment. You walk away without bitterness. You're not hard, you're healed. And that healed version of you, it sees through everything. You were never called to fit in. You were called to stand out. And now that you've accepted that, you've already won. You used to think something was wrong with you for needing so much space. You wondered why conversations felt like a chore, why crowded rooms made your chest tighten, why parties left you emotionally empty. But now you know. You weren't antisocial, broken, or too sensitive. You were simply chosen. And chosen ones can't drown in noise, they need silence to breathe. The more you align with who you truly are, the more you disconnect from who you were conditioned to be. You used to stay in friendships out of guilt. You stayed in conversations to keep the peace. You agreed to meet up when you were tired, just to not seem distant. But every time you did that, you dimmed yourself. You drained yourself. And now, you simply don't have the capacity for that anymore. Because now your spirit leads, not your people-pleasing. Your energy makes the decision. Your intuition is the gatekeeper. And your peace? That's your non-negotiable. You've learned the hard way that saying yes when you mean no is self-betrayal. And you refuse to betray yourself again just to make someone else feel better about your presence. Chosen ones don't do surface level. You crave realness, depth, frequency, vibration. If the conversation doesn't nourish you, you go quiet. If the room feels off, you leave. If the person's spirit feels unsettled, you trust it. That's not judgment. That's discernment. That's your energy reading what words can't say. People might think you're too much, too sensitive, too intense, too different. But you're not too anything. You're just not for everyone. And the deeper you go into your healing, the more you understand. Not everyone is supposed to get you. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. And that's okay. Because now, you don't need agreement to feel anchored. You've reached a level where you no longer confuse loneliness with divine isolation. You've come to love the quiet. Because you've realized that only in the quiet do the whispers of your calling become loud enough to hear. That's where the real work happens, when no one is watching. That's where the building begins, when there's no applause. People will ask where you've gone. They'll wonder why you've changed. And the truth is, you didn't disappear. You simply elevated. You're not gone. You're just on another frequency. And not everyone is willing to do what it takes to rise there with you. Your circle is smaller now, not because you're rejecting love, but because you're protecting your assignment. You no longer entertain drama masked as friendship. You don't do almost connections. You don't walk into places where your soul tightens on arrival. Because now, you trust that sensation. That resistance, it's sacred data. It's divine protection. And you listen to it immediately, because your spirit is expensive, not in pride, but in purpose. What you carry is rare. The vision you hold, the wisdom you channel, the peace you protect, it's not found in crowds. It's found in stillness. You're building something eternal, and eternal things can't be created in noisy places. You've come to realize that being chosen is not about being seen, it's about being aligned. You could sit in a room full of people and still feel alone, because surface-level connection no longer feeds you. You crave depth, frequency, purpose, energy that honors silence, eyes that see beyond the physical, souls that know how to sit in truth. And because that's rare, you've stopped searching. You wait now. You attract now. You flow now. No more forcing. No more adjusting yourself to make others feel okay. If they can't handle your depth, your presence, your boundaries, they're not your people. You are walking proof that solitude can refine, not destroy. That silence can sharpen, not isolate. You're becoming what many fear becoming, whole on your own. You've reclaimed your time. You've reclaimed your focus. You've reclaimed your spirit. And now, you're dangerous. Not because of what you say, but because of what you don't need. You don't need to be liked. You don't need to be explained. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be clear. And now, you are. This is why chosen ones can't be around a lot of people. Not because you're above, but because you've gone beyond. At some point, you stop apologizing for being different. You stop explaining your silence, defending your distance, or trying to soften the truth of who you are. Because now, you know, you weren't designed to fit in. You were built to stand apart. Your solitude isn't loneliness, it's alignment. It's not isolation, it's intimacy with the divine. The more you've honored that truth, the more peace you've found. And now, you don't need the noise. You don't need the crowd. You don't even need to be understood. You just need to stay aligned. The path of the chosen is quiet, deep, and often invisible to the world. But it is sacred. And the fewer people around you, the clearer the voice within becomes. That voice? That's the compass now. That's the fire. That's the guide. And it never leads you wrong. So move forward with confidence. You're not missing out. You're being called up. Keep your space clean. Keep your energy guarded. Keep your soul in tune. This is why you can't be around a lot of people. Because you were never meant to be part of the noise. You were meant to be the shift. And now, you are.